Let's talk. Your health and wellness podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode, another podcast of Let's Talk. And this is really your health and wellness podcast where we try and unpack those topics that will actually have a meaningful impact in your life and your health and wellness journey. I'm Dr. Avron Urison, and I'm a host together with Mike Huse this evening, who's also an expert in the health and wellness field. Mike, welcome. Nice to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
And we in our fourth episode, which is tonight, we're really looking at getting started in your health journey. I think a very interesting topic. I'm often asked this: how do I start? How do I get going? I want to start working on my health and wellness. I want to start this journey of health span, and what do I need to do? It's actually really an interesting topic, and there's lots to unpack this evening. So, Mark, look forward to unpacking this topic with you.
Yeah, me too, everyone. I think if you're involved in the health space, I think that there's so many things that you can do to get started, and I think obviously getting started is the best thing, just to take the first step. But I think once you've been in the space for a while, you tend to figure out certain tips and tricks that do make things easier. So it's exciting to unpack those for people getting started on their fitness journey, or even people trying to make a little bit of a change who are already on their fitness journey and maybe not getting the results they want.
Exactly, and I think it's one of the most important steps, right? I mean, it's seen as that psychological barrier. Like, I need to get going, but what do I need to do, and how do I overcome these challenges? And I think a large proportion of the population actually encounters this. And I think it's a very important topic to try and get people to help them and assist them in this process. So I thought it probably would be a good idea, Mark, to start off and just starting with some tips that we can give to people before we go into the specific topics, which we're going to unpack quite a few of them. But like as a general tips in terms of people wanting to make changes. Mark, they come into this, they come see you today in the gym or wherever you're consulting or chatting to them and say, I want to start today. I want to make those changes. What are some key tips that you would give to people?
Yeah. So I think the first one's kind of a little bit obvious, but I think it's important to be said is, go sign up at a fitness center. I'm not saying go sign up at a gym. What I'm saying is go sign up at a place that's going to have like-minded people, people on the same journey, trying to make a change in their life, build a community with people, because I think that fitness and a healthy lifestyle kind of live and die with the people you surround yourself with. So if you can get yourself into a gym or into any kind of boutique fitness center, I think you really are putting the wind in your sails when it comes to actually getting results and staying there, because people hold people accountable. So whether it's at the gym that you enjoy going to have the social aspect, or it's a CrossFit box, or it's a martial arts center, whatever you feel you gravitate more towards, go sign up there and go and join like-minded people that are going to be there every day and maybe hold you accountable. So that for me would be the biggest tip, I think.
I agree with you on that. Just unpack that a bit more. I would say exactly what you're saying. Surround yourself with support, right? Which is exactly what you're saying. And surround yourself with people, actually with like-minded people, and in a system that makes you feel accountable. And I think it's a very important point. You mentioned it, is if you're accountable to other individuals or that support group, it really helps you on your journey. And to get that support can really get you going.
Yeah, I also think it also, kind of spans out on that into your personal life. So, often I've had clients and let's say they're trying to make a healthy change, but they don't necessarily have the buy-in of their partner. And I think it's a critical discussion to have, because I think if you're spending time with someone every day that's not trying to live a similar lifestyle to you, it really can derail what you're trying to do, especially like a family aspect or a relationship aspect. So I think if you are serious about kind of making changes and you do have a significant other, I think having a sit down with them and being like, let's set some goals, let's do this together, let's do it as a team. Already there, you're starting to make really, really positive impact on the possibility of success. Because if your partner's kind of invested in it as well, and you guys are maybe going to the gym together or going for walks together, and you're cooking good, healthy meals together, that's so much easier than your partner's having whatever they want to eat while you're trying to, eat something maybe slightly healthier, maybe less tasty. It just really kind of adds up over time. So I think that the personal aspect of, let's say, community in a shared goal is also a very, very important factor.
Yeah. And I think that leads nicely into another key tip that you and I have chatted a bit about is focus on your why, right? Identify the deeper reason behind your goal. It may be that you want to be around for your family. You want to be fit and healthy. You want to have more energy to play with your kids. It's sort of, if you can focus, I would think if you can focus on your why and maybe share that with your partner or whichever that community that's supporting you, I think that can help quite a bit. And I think a lot of people out there don't get to that why, and therefore they can't get to that full motivation of why they're doing it.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I think that when you start to make a change, it doesn't necessarily have to be fitness related. You've got to have something that gives you a certain level of motivation to achieve that goal. So if you can define what you're looking to achieve or why you're looking to achieve it, because things will inevitably get hard. You're going to have days you don't want to do something. You're going to have days that, you have a really busy day at work or, whatever comes up. If you have something that's solid in terms of your why, there's so much of a greater chance of getting you out there, getting you active, keeping you kind of accountable for your goals, instead of, I just go to the gym because, I have to go to the gym, and I go for a walk because I have to go for a walk. It's like, yes, so it's a good mentality to have discipline wise, but you got to have something that's kind of there to stoke the flame sometimes, because, discipline, unfortunately, sometimes, unless you're extremely strong-minded, and I think that all of us have proven that we're not always strong-minded. I think that, unfortunately, things can kind of slip through the cracks sometimes. So I think there's a really nice discussion. I think we'll have it a little bit later on around, motivation versus discipline. I think that both of them have an important role to play for both their reasons, but they're very different.
Yeah. Another general point of mine, and I'm interested to hear yours, would be, and I've been thinking about this, is start small and build gradually. I think a lot of people try to take on too much. It can feel overwhelming instead of focusing on one habit at a time, right? And therefore you've got to build through small wins rather than trying, because that will obviously, it's a marathon. We're not running a sprint, and it's got to be a small gradual process. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that a lot of people, and we're getting to the end of the year, so this is a great time to talk about it. So many people in January and February that are like, okay, new year, I'm going to start everything off well, and they 180 their lives in terms of they go from eating whatever they want every day to chicken and broccoli. I'm going to be extreme, but like some people do, they cut out everything nice in their lives, and only once a week can they do this, and that's really just not the answer, because you don't need to go cold turkey on everything you enjoy in life to start making big positive changes in your health and the way you look and the way you feel. So as you said, making small changes. And as an example, with all my clients, when we first started off, I changed absolutely nothing in their diet. And all I did was I swapped them from, fizzy sugar cool drinks and juice to low calorie cool drinks. And just on that change alone, most of my clients would see 3 to 4 kilos in the first month, because it sounds like a small little change, but you're negating so many extra calories that people don't realize that they're taking in on a daily basis by drinking 3 or 4 cans of soda or whatever they're drinking. And it doesn't mean that you have to stop. It just means that you can make a slightly better choice and get used to maybe a low calorie or sugar-free alternative And that alone can be a massive change in the amount of calories you take in week on week. That's before you have to make any dietary changes.
Exactly. Before we go into nutrition, I think we definitely want to unpack this. Are there any other key points that you've thought of that you just like to share with our listeners in this regard?
Yeah, so I think that there's so much influence today on social media in terms of the way you should be exercising and the best way to exercise and, what you should do for this and a fad diet and all that kind of stuff. I think that you need to identify what you enjoy. So what kind of training or activity do you like? And what kind of meals, etc., do you like? Only you will know, because everyone is kind of different. Some people like carb-based diet. Some people like a bodybuilder style workout. Some people like a cardio-based workout. And people get driven off that path to go and follow the best workout, because they saw this online. And I honestly don't believe there's such a thing as the best type of exercise to get any results. The best type of exercise is the one that you enjoy, because the one that you enjoy means that you'll go more consistently. And the more consistent you go, the better your results will be. So choose things that you like, gravitate towards the style of exercise that you like and the style of diet that you like, and you're going to have better results. Don't follow a fad or something you saw on YouTube or Instagram. And I'm not saying any of that stuff is bad. There's a lot of great tips and exercise that you can use from social media, but don't identify that because someone that looks a certain way is doing their workout this way, that you now have to do that as well, even if it's tedious and boring and you don't enjoy it, because you probably won't end up sticking through it as the average person.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's important for people to understand and take with them that lesson. I think those are nice key points. And I think really what we're saying there is that there are some key principles that one needs to follow in terms of dealing with this issue about starting. And I think in each of these points that we unpack now, or topics, let's say, I think the same principles would apply. Obviously, we'll give some more specific examples with that. But I think let's go into nutrition. As you know, like it's probably one of them. If you go into any bookstore, it's probably the topic that's written about most is nutrition and diet. And there's just so much out there, and you can actually really be overwhelmed where to start from a health and wellness perspective. How would you try to break it up for a beginner? Someone walks in and say, I actually just want to start improving the way I eat and start eating more healthily. How does one actually even start in this surge of information?
Yeah, so I think that there are simple ways to start for any person. It requires a few steps, but again, as we went back to the why, if you want to make changes, the why has to be big enough for you to make some changes in your life. And unfortunately, some of those things require following a certain amount of steps to better understand what's going to work. So for me, step one would be identify what your goals are, because that's going to change the way you eat substantially. Are you someone that wants to lose some weight? Are you someone that is underweight that wants to gain some weight? Or are you someone that, you look a certain way and you want to build a bunch of muscle, or you want to lose a bunch of fat? Because the first thing to do is, and you can do it online, it's free. You can find 100 websites that do it. All you do is you go to a macro calorie counter. You can type that into Google. You'll find a bunch of free websites. And all you'll do is you'll input your information. I'm 189 centimeters, 98 kilos. I'm very active. And it asks you all these questions. So on the activity level, for me, I will put 5. If you've got like a desk job and you don't walk around on the day, maybe you put a 1 or 2. And what it will do is it'll spit out the amount of calories you need to eat or consume in a day that's going to get you to your goal. And that obviously is based on the timeline that you put in. So obviously the shorter the timeline, the more extreme the calorie requirement is going to come. And on the back end of that, just understanding what you need to consume on a daily basis to achieve your goals is already 100 steps ahead of people that don't know that, because then you can start making educated choices. And at the end of the day, it's like once you make educated choices about your diet, you're going to get results, because the basic fundamental principle about gaining and losing weight is it's just thermogenics. It's more calories more calories out than calories in if you want to lose weight, and it's more calories in than calories out if you want to gain weight. So you just got to think about it as a glass of water. If you empty enough of the water without refilling it, the jug's going to be left a little bit emptier, and so, i.e., you will lose weight. If you keep pouring water into the jug, at a certain point, it's going to overflow, i.e., you're going to gain weight. You can look at your food in the same way and then start understanding food. That's the big second step, is actually educating yourself on what food is and what macronutrients, i.e., carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, are in all of the food that you're eating. And the moment you understand that and you understand what the goal mark is, i.e., I know what calories I need to do and I know what macros, i.e., protein, carbs, and fats I need to hit in a day, it makes the whole journey a whole lot easier because you're able to actually target things. And as you go along, you just end up learning kind of with your eyes instead of weighing and measuring stuff, kind of how many calories are in certain things.
Yeah, and I would say a nice place to start as well is to start learning to read food labels, right? And avoiding overly
100%.
processed options. Those are like sort of basics that a lot of individuals don't cover, and it will just give you insight in terms of what you're eating. And a simple idea, which I've picked up from a lot of dietitians, is avoid overly processed. In other words, and I'm coming from a health perspective, right, as well, is that the closer the food is to that looks like the original food source, the healthier it is. And that's sort of a simple step that one can take in terms of health. Don't go for overly processed options. When they start adding huge amounts in.
I think those go hand in hand, Avron. As you said, health, like anything, as you said, is closer to its original, is going to be healthy for you, i.e. making good health changes in your body. But by doing that, immediately you're starting to cut out a lot of sugars, a lot of heavily saturated fat products. So immediately you're going to make changes in your body as well. So I think it's a hand in hand kind of idea and point that you make, because the further you can stay away from boxed processed foods, the quicker you're going to get healthy and the quicker you're going to make changes to your body.
And in terms of our overall general principles, I would say also, if you're going to make changes, begin with small swaps, right? For example, choosing whole grain bread instead of white, or if you're going to rather snack on a handful of nuts than chips. Those types of small options, those types of small changes would be quite significant, but seem like small, and that's a nice place to start. We spoke a bit about that in our intro as well.
Yeah, I also think that people have a very warped idea of what, and I don't like to say dieting because dieting has like a very negative connotation to it. Just way of eating. People have a very warped view of healthy eating. They think that it's this bodybuilder style meal. Everything's chicken and rice and boring, and you never get to have fun. And genuinely, I don't think it could be further from the truth if you understand nutrition. I mean, I've been involved in nutrition for probably the last 12 or 13 years. And when I was in my early 20s, I also had the narrative of, if I want to look good, I've got to eat chicken and rice and broccoli, and that's all I can eat. And, whey protein this and whey protein that. And as I got older, I realized that as long as you hit the calorie requirements that are in your target area, with moderation, you will achieve very similar results to that of someone getting those requirements through something like chicken and rice and chicken and broccoli. As an example, you don't have to stop eating things like pizza. You don't have to stop eating things like burgers. You don't have to completely ruin, in inverted commas, your life, to get a good body and get healthy. You can still enjoy all of those things in a controlled manner while still hitting the amount of calories that you need to do every day to kind of get and see results.
Exactly. And I think that leads quite nicely into this big area, which is you can actually get into a black hole with this, which I think you've got a lot more expertise than I do in terms of supplementation. Because I think that's sort of like a big area in sort of the gym environment. And I'm sure you get a lot of questions on this and trying to unpack it. But for a beginner looking at this, and it can look very daunting, walk into your local store, pharmacy. I mean, you just see aisles and aisles of supplements. Like, where do you even start with this? What would you suggest for a beginner?
Yeah, you're 100% right when you say we could black hole this conversation forever, because the industry is so big. The amount of money that's made in the industry is so massive. So there's obviously always this narrative of like, the more supplementation, the better. As much as you can get and as much as you can afford, like, you're going to carry on exponentially getting better results. And the sad truth about it is it really is false. And I say that not that, oh, you're not going to get results by increasing the amount of supplements you get, but it's not an exponential increase. And maybe if there's any retailers that ever listen to this, I won't be a big fan of mine, but it's not worth your money. It's really not worth. If you were going to go and spend money on supplementation, I would rather give you advice to go spend money on nutraceuticals that your body needs, things like omega-3s and vitamin Ds, K2s, things like that we don't get enough of in our diets anymore. That is, you're going to feel better and you're going to perform better on more nutraceuticals than you are on supplementation. And when it comes to supplementation, the only two that I would really advocate for, because they're extremely scientifically tested, there's a lot of, peer-reviewed journal information. There's so much backup to say that these two items are safe, that I'm comfortable saying that something like creatine, which is the most extensively tested supplement on the planet, and whey protein are really the two things that not only people that are training should be on, but people in general should be using. Creatine has been shown to have a number of health benefits outside of increasing muscle volume and strength. So that's just something that, they're giving creatine now to athletes that take contact, because it's been shown to reduce the percentage of Alzheimer's and late stage dementia that people get. So it's neuroprotective as well as being such a good supplement for performance and muscle building. So there's no harm in taking 5 grams of creatine a day. You get it from food anyway, but the amount of food you'd have to eat to get 5 grams of creatine, it's just so much easier to supplement with that creatine. And whey protein, and as I'm sure you and probably everyone knows, it's just a byproduct of dairy farming. It's milk-based protein. And yeah, if you are lactose intolerant, there can be alternatives. And there are even isolates in whey protein that don't contain the lactose, so you can still have that. That's just increasing your daily protein consumption. And the amount of scientific literature that's coming out now about how important muscle mass is on your body, in terms of your muscles are basically a pharmacy producing so many things that the body needs. Taking in more protein is never going to be a bad thing up to a certain point. So having a little bit more muscle mass is always going to be healthy. But when it comes to supplements, Avron, those are the only two I'd suggest.
Yeah. And would you say you should see your healthcare professional first before you start that?
I'd say that in like a young, healthy person, maybe not it's 100% necessary, but in the safe side of everything, I would always, if you're someone that wants to be extra.
Exactly right. I mean, I would go with that as being a medical professional. Just go get tests, as you said, that they can do some basic blood tests. Just make sure that there aren't any underlying conditions that it could put extra strain on your body. And always just get that checked out first, and then one can start with those basic supplements. And then I think what we said in terms of nutrients, I think from my perspective, sort of a daily multivitamin, vitamin D3 and omega-3 can be probably a good place to start, just at a very basic level. But one could also look at foods, and the food you're taking. You could add fatty fish, which would be the omega-3s, eggs, fortified cereals, and quite a bit of foods that could have your omega-3s and vitamin Ds in as well. But if you want to start with a nutrient, then go for the multivitamins.
Yeah, I think it also just depends on how you're feeling. And there's so much information out there. And if you're not willing to go and look, As an example, I spent a lot of my years working at discount pharmacies, and they've got a great level of knowledge amongst their staff. So if you ever just feel like you don't know where to start, go in, chat to the staff in the pharmaceutical aisles, because they really they get ongoing training from all the companies. They do understand a high level of stuff. If you're lacking energy, it could be a B vitamin that you're looking to get. There's a number of things that they would be able to explain to you if you wanted to go in and have a conversation.
Right.
So that would be my recommendation.
Happy with that. And I suppose, so we explained about nutrition, supplementation, the individual's ready to start and get going. Now the $1 million exercise, they come and they say, okay, where should I start? Where do I start an exercise? What should I do? And this is quite a big question. And I'm very interested to hear how you're going to, someone just comes to you, they've been doing nothing, they haven't started, they're not exercising in any possible way. What would you suggest to someone to start with?
Well, I mean, it's goal based, it's goal dependent. But let's just say that as the average person, they want to start in a gym and they're coming up and having a conversation. My best advice would be, start on machines that are assisted. So we call them selectorized machines. So anything with a cable on it, because it takes away the emphasis of you having to use smaller muscles that stabilize major muscles to do a movement. Because obviously, let's say you don't have any experience. Form and technique are important in the gym, and they're important for so many reasons. One, they're important to get good results, because stretching the muscle and contracting the muscle is not as easy as just stretching the muscle and contracting the muscle. There's certain things required in understanding your biomechanics of your body and how you move. So to eliminate all of those, go and jump on a piece of equipment that's got a red plate on the person's chest, and that shows you're going to be working chest, and it only allows you to move in 2 angles, and you put a weight that you can handle and you work on that. That'll get you started. That'll get you stronger. It'll also start getting your body confident in moving over from something like that to free weights. There's so much push these days for people to start strength training and start weight training. It's not just a male-dominated area anymore. There used to be the narrative, and I mean, I still think there is a strong narrative, especially when it comes to females, that I don't want to lift weights because I'm going to get too big. And it's like that doesn't happen, because the guys are all trying to get too big, and we still can't do it. So I think that women need to understand it's not as easy as a lift a weight. But the nice and important thing about it is that strength training it's holistically healthy for the body. It burns more calories than anything else. It creates aesthetic muscle that people actually want to look like. There's no female influencer or male influencer on the planet that has a great physique that doesn't incorporate some version of strength training. Be it sometimes not completely, but there is always an aspect of it.
Mark, are we going to say that would the advice when you're starting off would be to do a combination of cardio and muscle training, let's say, in a limited format?
I'm always very hesitant to kind of push the cardio narrative, and I'll tell you why. And it's not that cardio is bad. Cardio is great, and it's something you should do. But I truly believe that cardio, if we're talking in a gym space, I believe that cardio should be done outside. I believe that if you're going to go and walk on a treadmill in the gym, take that energy you're going to go work on the treadmill and go use the equipment in the gym to get a good workout, and then get home and go for a nice long walk. Take your dog out, take your partner, go for a walk, get your cardio in that way, because that's just holistically better for the body. You're getting exposed to sunlight, you're getting exposed to all the good things that we kind of take for granted. Cardio will also be a nice thing to add to your training programs, but I don't think it's ever in kind of, unless your sole goal is cardiovascular. And even athletes that I train that are purely endurance-based athletes do strength training because it always assists in endurance capabilities. Cardio is something that should be kind of just a real add-on to a good style of training. And that doesn't mean that you have to use solely weights. We can talk about HIIT training and all other things like that. But I just don't believe that you can, unless you're really passionate about cardio, that you'll get the same benefits and feeling of going into the gym and walking on a treadmill for 40 minutes, where you could run outside for 40 minutes and go to the gym and have a nice, workout with the equipment that's been provided or in your boutique or whatever.
So we would say, and sort of that's where I'm going, and some notes that I've made. My suggestion to patients would also be to start 10, 15 minutes of daily activity, like walking, stretching, dancing, cycling, whatever activity you enjoy, sort of on the cardio perspective. And we'd say, and add into that, go to the gym for 20 minutes, I don't know, 3-4 times a week, and start doing some weight training and do those together in sort of a small way to start and get going.
Yeah, 100%. And again, you make a really good point there. Because often I think people would think, 20, 30 minutes, it's way too short. I'm not going to get results. It's like, if you haven't ever trained before and had a proper workout, like, you don't need to be in the gym for an hour, hour and a half. Like, the point isn't to go in and kill yourself and be so sore the next day that you, one, can't go and do the daily activity you want to do, and two, you're definitely not going to the gym. Consistency is always going to outperform someone that has a great once-off workout at the work. So, yeah, I definitely think the less is more.
Exactly. I mean, saying consistency, I think that's the key here, right? You're never going to cheat and do everything, but it's about getting into a daily habit or weekly habit and being consistent about it, and that builds it up, right? If you've never exercised before, doing 5 minutes is better than doing nothing. Some people, and they get disappointed if they can't, but the point is about doing something at the time you've scheduled actually is very significant.
Yeah, 100%. And as we kind of both said now, if you can just allot an hour a day for both those activities, as you said, like a walk or a jog or a stretch or some yoga, and 20, 30 minutes in the gym, focus on one body part or that you enjoy, or just do something that involves some weights, and kind of just push yourself a little bit in that 20, 30 minutes, but don't do anything ridiculous, especially when you're starting. You're just going to build up that enjoyment of being able to push your body. You're not going to be as sore. You're not going to be struggling to get out of bed because you trained legs for an hour and a half yesterday because it's your first day in the gym and someone had you doing 20 sets of squats.
Yeah.
That's not a positive way to get results. So yeah, 100% agree with you. 20, 30 minutes to get started. Get yourself in the gym 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
You'll be golden.
And the message, just get going. And I think we've spoken about the two biggies, right? That's basically eat and move. So watch what you eat and get moving. Probably one of the biggest areas, and the areas that I'm passionate about, and that's often not spoken about when you're talking about diet and nutrition, is sleep. And certainly we've seen over the last couple of years, there's been a huge amount of research done on studies about your sleep schedules. What emphasis would you place on sleep for beginners, and how do they start getting their sleep schedules correct?
Yeah, so this is a real tough one, because this is going to be a do as I say, not as I do kind of of talking point. Because I really am a night owl. I probably don't go to bed before 1 or 2 any morning, and I should. But the literature is conclusive. It really is. Sleep is paramountly important to get results that you're looking to achieve. Cognitive function, your ability to handle stress, your ability to handle anxiety, they're all linked with proper amount of sleep.
Yeah. And
So
I want to just add
if we're
in
talking
before you
about,
go on the research guys, metabolic function. In other words, how your body metabolizes, and in terms of chronic diseases, they found in the latest studies that it has a huge impact and effect. And people who lack sleep or have poor sleep actually are shown to actually have worse outcomes with their diseases.
yeah, I can 100% get on board with that, because at the end of the day, I just look at it like this. You've got to turn the factory lights off for X amount of time every day. The longer you keep the lights on, the quicker that equipment's going to break, and the quicker, things are going to go wrong. So I just liken it to that. If you're getting your full allotted sleep, when you deal with something, as you said, debilitating later on in life, you haven't kind of chalked away as much of the power reserves as you might have if you just weren't getting good night's sleeps throughout the course of your life. And I think that sleep is one of those things that it's not like, oh, I slept really good this month, but last month I didn't sleep. But it's like we're creatures of habit. So you're either someone that, goes to bed at a certain hour and gets up, and you're probably that way most of your life, or you're someone like me who like has a terrible sleep schedule that sleeps 4 or 5 hours a day. And it's like, it's not going to be this week. I've been that way for probably 20 years. So you really got to make a concerted effort to change those things, because it does make a huge difference in terms of what your goal points are.
Exactly. Look, I've consulted with many patients on this, and certainly the goal and what the literature is saying is 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. If you're getting less than that, then it's going to be detrimental to your body. Where I would start with individuals, we're starting with beginners, and a beginner in terms of trying to get their sleep. My first point would be to people is start by going to bed and waking up at the same time daily, like getting to a routine. Now you say, okay, well, that's at 1:30 every night and waking up at 5:30. But I would suggest try and bringing those times before and say, okay, let's set a time 11 o'clock every night. Obviously, Netflix and social media doesn't help, but by actually setting a time, and I've been through this myself, right, in terms of trying to improve my sleep patterns and saying, okay, I'm going to work backwards here. I want 7 hours sleep, which means if I'm up at 5, I need to get to bed at 10. Maybe 10's a bit excessive. That's trying it at 11 o'clock, and that's the time, right? But you have to be exactly like all the other parameters we were looking at. You have to be consistent in what you're doing, and sort of get your body into a routine on that. And it's difficult, but it's actually important to do.
Yeah, look, I think that there's, just to touch on a few of the points that you made, I think, as you said, Netflix and social media, if you really are serious about getting better sleep, then you need to give yourself the best chance of doing that. So things that I've kind of read a bit and tried myself that have made a big difference is trying to kind of put your phone away about an hour before you go to sleep, so you're not staring at a white light. That'll get you to sleep quite a lot faster. Dim the lights in kind of your room or in the apartment or in the house, so that you're not dealing with bright light just before you try and get into bed. It's really nice to have a hot shower just before you kind of get into bed, because the body will start rapidly cooling, and your body needs to drop 2 degrees to actually get to sleep. So the thermic effect of getting out of a warm shower is your body immediately starts to try and rapidly cool, and that puts you to sleep a whole lot faster. So that's a nice one. Stretching before you go to bed, just like a 5-10 minute stretch, that'll relax your nervous system, making it easier for you to fall asleep. Because the thing is, we're trying to get to REM stage 2. That's recovery sleep.
Exactly.
So a lot of people kind of hover around REM 1, and that's not really important at all. You're not achieving much in REM 1 outside of you're technically asleep, but we want to recover. So there's a number of things that I think you can do to try and get to sleep faster and have a better quality of sleep. I've just listed a few, but those ones have worked for me. I promise you, if I have a warm shower before I get into bed, I go to sleep a whole lot faster. If I take some time to do a bit of stretching before I go to bed, which can be a bit daunting for people, that's why I don't like to recommend it, because stretching before bed, that's it's like asking someone to do another activity.
Yes.
But it really does kind of relax the nervous system and does help you get
That is interesting, and something certainly I'm going to look at implementing and discussing with our patients. That's interesting. I would also just add in, avoid heavy meals or caffeine. Some people can just have that caffeine, but most people, certainly a few hours before, should stop the caffeine or any stimulants that would affect them. Turn off that social media and internet, and just have a quiet 30 minutes or so before you try and get to sleep and get into a regular pattern, and really, really target those 7 to 8 hours. I know from many patients I've worked with, it will make a world of difference in terms of your health journey.
Yeah, again, you made a nice point that people that can drink these caffeine-based cool drinks before they go to bed and stuff again. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Unfortunately, things with caffeine and stuff, they do release, they aid the release of cortisol in the body. It's not really the kind of hormone you want to be releasing just before you start sleeping. It is a catabolic hormone. It is a stress hormone. It's not really the state you want to. Even if you can sleep, you're not sleeping under the best conditions. So, as you said, try and limit those kind of things to a long time before you head to bed.
Mark, we've spoken about general principles to follow. So, and I think we've got those in terms of starting small, take one step at the time, etc. I want to move a bit onto, and this has become a mental state and how to overcome mental blocks. And you being in this environment, what mental blocks have you found individuals have, and how have you assisted the beginners in terms of getting over those mental blocks to keep going on their health journey?
Yeah, there's I mean, I think that this is such an untalked about topic, and it's just there's not enough kind of emphasis around the mental state of when you're trying to make these changes. So we had a little discussion I think earlier this week, and we spoke about the famous book, the 12 Atomic
Atomic
Habits,
habits.
and when I read that, it kind of changed a big way on how I view challenging things in life and identifying yourself as a certain thing. So when I chat to people that are getting started with their fitness journey, the first kind of point that I make to them is that you don't talk to yourself like you're going on a diet or you have to go to train or all of those kind of things. The most important thing you have to do is identify as a person that does those things. As silly as it sounds, when we chatted about two people that have quit smoking. The book describes it as, if you offer two people that have just quit smoking a cigarette, one of them says, sorry, I don't smoke, and the other one says, I'm trying to quit. The one that says, sorry, I don't smoke, has identified as being someone that no longer smokes. So that person has quit the habits. The person that's saying, hey, I'm trying not to smoke, that person is only days, X months, years away from picking up a cigarette again, because they haven't identified as someone that's not a smoker anymore. They're identifying as a smoker that's trying not to smoke. And the same thing applies to your fitness or any kind of hard thing that you're doing in life is, people need to understand that if you identify as someone that eats healthy, I don't eat, boxed meals or processed foods, I eat vegetables and fruits, then you give yourself so much more strength and mental stability of achieving those goals and being like, I'm trying not to eat bad food. I'm trying not to do this, because you're putting that mental restriction on yourself. And if I've learned anything from people is when you put people in a box mentally, all they want to do is the thing they're trying not to do. But when you identify as something, you identify as a person that is eating healthy, living healthy, going to the gym, then you just become that person. And it's almost that fake it till you make it kind of syndrome, but it does work.
Yeah. So it's about identifying, saying, this is who I am. I'm this healthy person. I may have some roadblocks along the way. We all have roadblocks. We all have difficult days. We all have difficulties. But this is in essence who I am, and I'm on a journey to get there. And you see yourself as that person, right? As opposed to the person has those obstacles, right? Who's actually encountering those obstacles all the time.
I think a cool way of looking at it is, sorry, carry on, Avron.
No, go for it.
I think a cool way of looking at it is, I'm trying to diet and I'm failing. It's a really kind of negative way to look at it, versus I'm a healthy guy and I slipped up. I'm a healthy girl and I slipped up. Because as you said, you are going to stumble. Every single person that walks the face of the planet, that tries to eat good meals all the time, or exercise every day, or wake up early, or go for a walk every evening, there are going to be days where you just don't quite do it, or you have the bad thing, or you succumb to your cravings. But if you keep identifying as the person that isn't your norm, you haven't failed on some journey that you're trying to be someone that you're not, I think it makes it a whole lot easier to kind of pick up the pieces and keep going, especially when it comes to diets. Because when you kind of fail in your diet, which you will, and everyone will, and I will, and as I said, everyone will, if you can just say to yourself, cool, I made a mistake, let's get back on the train to being who I am, you probably won't turn that one mistaken meal into this binge long next day or two because you messed up. And you now are just like, okay, well, the gates are open. Let me just have what I want to have. I'll start again on Monday, because you're identifying as that person trying to diet, not that healthy person that slipped up.
Exactly. That really brings me to my next point in terms of what to do when things go wrong, right? And exactly what you say, like, don't be too hard on yourself. As we know, this is you're on a journey, right? Be kind to yourself, I would say. And progress isn't linear, and that's okay, right? You're going to have these wobbles. So it's okay to have a wobble, but you're seeing yourself as that person, and the next time you will do better, rather than saying, oh, I can't make it, I'm not that person, etc., etc. And I think that's a healthy way to approach it, because you are going to have many times when things go wrong.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. If you can just mediate that one bad meal and get back on the wagon after that, it probably won't even matter. It genuinely probably won't even derail you in the slightest. But the problem is people have the chocolate or the cupcake or the burger or the pie. They're like, oh, now I can kind of have what I want. So like, let's go crazy. And they end up putting the whole the week's worth of negated calories back in 2 or 3 minutes.
I mean, I would say if you have an unhealthy meal, don't skip your next meal. Just make a healthier choice the next time, right? So that shows you on your journey. So you don't have to punish yourself.
Yeah.
Just go along the journey and make a healthier choice. Motivation versus discipline, right? We spoke a bit about that. I think that's an important point, and a point we wanted to unpack.
Yeah, I think the old adage, motivation will get you there, discipline will keep you there. It is the most important kind of narrative that you can take between, or contrast you can take between the two words. You're not going to have motivation every day. You're not going to wake up with a fire lit under you every single day. You're not going to feel good every day, and you're not going to feel like being there every day. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline is the commitment that you make with yourself to do the things that you hate doing like you love them. And I think it's a really, really important mindset to have, because yes, motivation is great and it helps you get those great gym sessions or great moments in life because you're fired up. But the consistency aspect of changing your life around, that kind of hinges on discipline. It doesn't hinge on motivation. Motivation is great to get you started. That's probably why a lot of people are listening to the podcast, because they're motivated to make a change. But you have to understand that motivation might not be there tomorrow. It might not be there the next day. And does that mean that you're not going to do the things you need to do to make the change? And I think that discipline just falls right in there. And if you can just consistently do something, no matter how small it is, you'll make changes.
Agreed. So we're saying to our listeners, start with that motivation to get you going, but ultimately you have to have that discipline. And we spoke about that consistency of just doing it every day, getting out there, seeing you that person you want to be, getting to that person you want to be, and keep going.
Yeah.
Mike, it seems that time,
100%.
we're running short of time here. And I think we're definitely going to do a renew on this topic as well, because it's so interesting. And I think we've unpacked a lot for our podcast listeners to digest and wake up tomorrow morning and hopefully get going on their health journey. And I hope we've given some ideas. Any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave for our listeners?
Well, I have a bunch, but I'll pick one. I'll cover it really, really quickly. And it just boils down to wants versus feels. I think that, I want to wake up early. I want to go to the gym. I want to eat healthy, but I feel like sleeping in. I feel like having takeaways, and I don't feel like going to the gym. The faster you can understand that you don't want to be the person that does what they feel and be the person that does what they want, the faster you'll make changes in your life. And only you as a person can make those decisions. No one can do it for you. That's the great thing about fitness and health, is you build something that you can't buy it with money. You have to put work in to achieve it. And that's why it's valuable. It's valuable because it's one of the only things on the planet that you can't get a great body, or the body of your dreams, whatever that looks like, with money. You have to achieve it through hard work and discipline, and it shows good character in someone. And I think it shows good character for any listener on here that wants to change their life and make a more positive impact on their health. And that's a great starting point. So yeah, just identify what you want to do versus what you feel like doing, and try and make that choice to be the person you want to be and not be the person you feel like being.
Great. And I would certainly say, just add into that, starting your health journey is about small, steady steps. Pick one or two tips from our episode today to begin with. We've really covered a lot. Just pick one or two areas. Don't be afraid to adjust as you go. And remember that every little effort adds. Do it in small steps. It's not a race, it's a marathon. And just get out there and do it. Mark, who's a health and wellness expert, thanks so much for all your thoughts, ideas. We're definitely going to do a follow-up on this episode. It's been really, really so great to have you on this podcast with me, and just thank you for your time. Look forward to doing many more with you.
Yeah, thanks, Avron. I definitely appreciate the time, and I've enjoyed the podcast.
Great. And I'm Dr. Avron Urison, and this has been Let's Talk, your health and wellness podcast. And look forward to see you and have you listening to us at our next podcast. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Let's talk.